Illinois Radio Network News. I'm Mark Vasko. One item that does not appear to be on Governor Rauner's agenda, turnaround or otherwise, is a special session of the legislature if a budget is not passed by the end of next month. John Gregory reports.
At least not yet, as Rauner says he's cautiously optimistic that state lawmakers can pass his agenda, along with the state budget, all by the scheduled adjournment date of May 31st. If that doesn't happen, Rauner seems more inclined to talk the terms of a session out with legislative leaders, rather than unilaterally calling lawmakers back to Springfield.
If we need more time for some reason, I'll work closely with Speaker Madigan, President Cullerton, and Leader Durkin and Redonio to work out how that process should unfold. But again, I'm cautiously optimistic we can get things done by May 31st.
Rauner says he doesn't have any philosophy on special sessions, but prefers to get things done on time. In Oak Brook, I'm John Gregory.
A report released by the group Voices for Illinois Children suggests tax increases would no longer make it necessary to cut social services throughout the state. The idea is to restore income tax to pre-2015 levels, add a sales tax on some services, and close some corporate tax loopholes. David Lloyd is the director of the group's Fiscal Policy Center and says for every 0.25% increase in income tax, the state generates $1 billion, and taxing more services would be very beneficial too.
Illinois currently taxes only 17 services compared to the national average of 56. And if Illinois taxed the same services as our neighboring state of Iowa, we could raise over $4 billion per year.
The governor, for now, not supporting any tax increases. A 40-year-old Rockford man saved a life yesterday while driving his UPS truck. He was going across a bridge, noticed a man in the Rock River who had just jumped. The driver pulled over, jumped into the fast-moving water himself, swam about 15 yards to reach the jumper, hauled him to safety. This is the Illinois Radio Network. Illinois Radio Network News, I'm Mark Vasko. U.S. Senator Mark Kirk of Illinois is not enthused about trade with Cuba, Jim Anderson reports.
He says Cuba is as communist as ever, whereas China has made free market reforms.
Our exports from Illinois to China have been going up like about 10-15% a year. When you look at the politics of China, I would say it plays in Peoria. People in Peoria who are very linked to Caterpillar, they understand just how much Caterpillar winning contracts against the Komatsu in China are important to their future.
He also notes that Cuba has a gross domestic product of $68 billion, whereas China's is $9.2 trillion, so it's easier to stand on principle with Cuba. President Obama announced the reopening of diplomatic relations with Cuba, but lifting the 1960 trade embargo will require an act of Congress. This is Jim Anderson.
It's as expensive as buying a new car, a nice one, every year. So when you're picking one out, what's the best way to pick a college? Dave Dahl reports.
It's like Smokey Robinson, and later the captain in Tennille said, shop around.
Don't assume that higher cost means better quality. That is not true in higher education. It's logical. You go on Amazon and you see 3 items and one of them costs $5 more, and you think, well, that must be better because it costs $5 more. Well, that's not always true, and it's not always true in higher education.
That's Jim Applegate, director of the State Board of Higher Education. He says college can be useless if you don't finish, and even more unaffordable if you don't finish in 4 years. At the Illinois Capitol, this is Dave Dahl.
Police in Rockford found 4 people, 2 of them children, dead of apparent gunshot wounds late Saturday in their duplex. A mother, boyfriend, and her 2 boys all found following a call from neighbors after hearing gunshots. It took firefighters more than 9 hours to put out a grain bin fire in McHenry Township over the weekend. There were no injuries, but more than $2,500 worth of corn was destroyed, as officials believe there was a drying machine that was the cause of the fire. This is the Illinois Radio Network.